Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here, and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Today we're joined by Stuart Goodfellow, the partner of Small Business Big Exit and the author of Small Business Big Exit, How to Make More Money Selling Your Business Than Running It. So today we're talking about optimizing businesses for sale and hopefully a little bit about why a business owner might make more money selling rather than running a business, which, personally I think is a very interesting proposition. So keep listening. Here we go.
ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, Stuart. Welcome to the Deal Room.
G'day, Joanna. How are you? Thanks very much for inviting me to come along today. Looking forward to this conversation.
Fabulous. Me too, Stuart. Me too. So let's kick off perhaps by just talking briefly about who this book is aimed at. Who should be reading it? Who's your target here?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of people in business. Majority of businesses are owned, by small business owners or medium-sized business owners. And for us, what we found was there's an area of those businesses who are doing somewhere between $5 million and $20 million worth of turnover. They've been in business for a few years, and they've got some questions and some challenges around what is it they want to do next. And the key questions we get is, what's my business worth and who's going to buy my business? And I don't know the process. I've heard a lot. I've heard it's complicated. I don't know who to turn to. I don't know where to go, where to get that information from. So we've pulled together the book and to answer some of those questions.
And the book seems also to be talking to the owners who've built their business and are probably selling their business in order to retire. Is that the general type of business that you guys deal with and that you see in the market?
Well, there's two areas. One is a transition to retirement, and the other area is someone who's actually built a business and they've reached that goal, their own level of competence, if you like, and they're looking to go and do something else. So it's those business owners who are proactively looking at moving on to the next phase rather than a forced sort of sale through, death, divorce, or some sort of disability, something like that. So it's those ones who've they're proactive, they've got a grasp on their business, they want to go and do something else, the business is in good shape and they want to move it on.
Got it. Okay. All right. Good. And then I guess still sticking on the background a bit here before we delve into the detail of what you cover in the book. Why did you write the book? What drove you to it? What were you thinking about? What were the gaps that you were seeing?
Well, my business partner and I, Sam Harrop, so Sam and I have been working in the consulting area for a lot of years now. We've worked with hundreds of business owners. And a lot of them get to the point of, my business is good, but what do I do next? And we used to say, I don't know, go and see a broker or go and see somebody else. And what we realised was that whilst they had a great business, it wasn't set up for sale. So we had a lot of questions from our clients saying, okay, what do I need to do before I go and see the broker? What do I need to do before I go and list the thing for sale? And it's like, well, okay, so, first of all, why are you selling? So that's what all started. It actually started from our clients going, look, I've got a good business now. How do I move it on? And they just didn't know. They had no idea.
And so that's when you started, I guess, providing services in this area. And where did the book fit into that? Why the idea of writing a book? I mean, a book is a big undertaking, right? I've never written a full book. It seems to me that it's something that would take a while to do. So what were your ideas behind that? Was it about education for your clients, or were you seeing some gaps in knowledge in the marketplace that you thought a book could meet?
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps in the knowledge in that area. If you just went to Google, how do you start a business? there is, millions of pages on the internet about that. 71% of information around business is all about starting a business. 28% of all the information on Google is all about growing a business. But there's only 1% of the information available which works on exiting a business properly.
Wow.
So there's not much information out there. So,
well, we're looking to try and deal with that with the Deal Room podcast as well. So we're all fighting the good fight here, I guess, right?
And this is the thing, and there are a lot of business owners who are searching for this information and they're not getting good advice, or the advice that they are getting, they may not quite be ready for it. So what we unpacked was looking at what are the key questions that people are looking at now, and that's where the book came from. So for us, there are 5 main areas. So those 5 main areas are purpose. What's the purpose of your ability to run a business, and what's the purpose? What do you want to go and do next? What's your why, if you like? And part of that is to look at, when is the right time to sell a business, why you're selling it, why would someone buy it, who would buy it, how much do you need? So get that stuff sorted early. So if you know what your goals are, then it's easy to hit a target. You can't hit a target you don't see. So if you actually know what you need to actually sell your business for, that's going to give you a bit of an idea about, now I've got some clarity around my goals, and it's going to help me in my direction. And what we also find out is that once people actually get very, very clear about what they need in their business to actually sell it, the business performs. It actually moves ahead. Sales increase, profitability increases, and the time that they actually take running their business decreases because they spend more time operating on trying to sell their business. So that's the first area, is purpose. The second area is peak, and there's 5 P's. So purpose, peak, prime, promote, perform. So the second area is peak, and peak is take a peek at your business. What is your business worth? Who would value your business? Is it a valuer? Is it a broker? Is it your accountant? Is it sometimes what happens, a next door neighbour, you meet somebody at a party who's just sold their business. Oh, I sold my business for, whatever it is. You should be able to get the same amount of money. And we really look at how would you actually value your business. And you go and talk to 3 accountants, you're going to get 5 different valuations. So you've really got to get educated and understand how your business will be valued.
And so how do you suggest doing that then? You've talked about a number of avenues, and there's certainly all the different various avenues that I see business owners using in terms of valuing their business. What's your conclusion on, ultimate best ways for valuation of a business?
Well, there's a valuation and there's an appraisal. So you can go and get a certified valuer to value your business, and they're going to be looking at benchmark data and that sort of stuff. And so is a business broker or an appraiser. The first thing that we would suggest is actually go back and have a look at what's happening in your industry. So it's industry benchmarking is generally the best idea. And your accountant or a certified accountant or somebody who's actually very familiar in your industry and your industry type is going to be the best person to actually help you and they're not going to give you a dollar figure, they'll give you a range, right? So if you're in a landscaping business, the person you go and talk to, your accountant or your valuer or your broker, have they sold other landscaping businesses? Or if I'm into the daycare area, do you do that? Now we've got a lead into a really good contact in financial planning. And all they do is focus on selling and buying financial planning practices and putting those things together. So if you're a financial planner, you'd go and talk to this guy. If you're a daycare centre, you probably wouldn't go and talk to him. So you've got to find the right person in that industry. Effectively,
you're saying, all right, well, let's find the industry specialists to help us with evaluation.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots and lots of businesses for sale. You've just got to find the right person or the right people to advise you to get the right valuation for your business.
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right. So that's peak. And then what was next? I think you said prime.
Yeah, prime. So purpose is understanding what you need for your business, what you want for your business. Peak is actually having a look at what your business is actually worth. And if the valuation comes in line with what you want, then it's great. You can actually miss step 3. But if there's a gap, and typically there is, then we need to prime our business for sale. So priming your business for sale is really about rapidly increasing the value of your business to make sure that the valuation can increase, which is going to be in line with the amount of money that you want and the time as well, right? And the way we look at prime is putting on the buyer's hat. So not the vendor's hat, putting on the buyer's hat. The whole idea, the objective is to pacify the buyer. So pacify is a term that we've come up with, and pacify stands for profits, assets, cash flow, independence, and first impressions. So to pacify the buyer's looking for the profits in your business. How do you make money? What's the model of your business? How does it make money? From the day that first somebody knocks on the door, how do they knock on the door, all the way through to delivering the product or the service and the follow-up and the billing and invoicing and everything else down the back end. And is there actually profits in the business, in the profits in the product? And is this sustainable? So have you got 3 years of good financials? I was talking with a restaurant owner this morning who came to us about 12 months ago, and he said, I think I might be selling my business in about 5 years' time. And we said, okay, great. A year later, and he had some interesting figures. He was taking a lot of money out of the business. And we said, well, okay, let's not do that. Let's inject it back into the business, because no one's going to buy a business with, profits taken out of the business. He's just run a year. He's had a record year. His sales have gone up a little bit, but his profits have increased threefold, because we did some other things as well about, stopping some of the costs and that sort of stuff. So he's got another 2 years to go, and he's going to be fine if he just keeps doing what he's doing. It's great. So that's about profits.
I think that's an interesting, this whole concept of prime, and I know we're just at the beginning of the detail of this prime area, and we'll continue with it. But I think it's worth saying that this area, is something that a lot of people on this podcast talk about, the benefits of preparing a business for sale. But I see the practical issues of working with businesses in priming them for sale is often when business owners have decided they want to sell, they're the kind of people that want to get into it straight away. And it's very hard for them to stay emotionally connected whilst also looking down the barrel of, putting themselves in the position as though their business is being sold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's where we're a little bit different to everybody else, and that the main focus of what we do is help people pacify the buyers and help prime the business for sale. Whereas you've got, yourselves and accountants and financial planners and business brokers, they're all in the moment. I want it to happen now. And it's all about compliance. What we say to the business owners, look, you can go and do that, and that's great. And you might be lucky, you might get the 1.5 times multiple that most business owners get. Or you can actually spend some time, get this thing into the right form, which is going to be more attractive to the buyer. Because the buyer is looking at, if I'm going to go and invest money, I want to know how this thing works. That's what I'm buying. I'm not buying the compliance. I'm not buying dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Yes, I know I have to do that, but what is it that I'm buying? I'm actually buying part of the pacifier. I'm buying the profits, right? So we do that. And then what we also need to look at is the A side, the assets. So there are tangible and intangible aspects to your business. Tangible assets, plant and equipment, what makes the thing work. Right? But the intangible stuff is all the secret sauce. It's the points of difference. It's, what's your staff levels? What are their roles? What's the performance? What's my marketing strategies? What works? What doesn't work? What's my sales process? Do I have some sort of installation secret or a hack that will be, or production hack that's going to differentiate, your business from somebody else? How do you do your pricing? How do you do your quoting? That's the stuff that we really want to know. What works, what doesn't work, and why. That's what I'm buying. And if you've got some good ideas around that and you can actually write them down in your secret source document, that's what's going to justify a higher multiple, if you like, when you sell your business.
Okay, so let's drill into this a little bit more. So you're suggesting that the owner prepares a secret source document. I like the name of this document. And they're actually in this document inputting all of this information sort of to underpin their justification for the value of the business.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and that's what an investor or a buyer is buying. They're not just buying the address and the factory and whatever else it is and my staff. But like that's important too. We still need to make sure, have we got customer contracts? Have we got supplier contracts? Have we got employment engagement contracts and that sort of stuff too? Because I want to make sure that if I come in and buy your business today, this business is going to continue tomorrow for the next 2 to 5 years or whatever it is until I take it to the next level. That's really, really important. And that alone is that's where the multiple comes in. So we work with a cafe owner. He actually was a restaurant and he started a cafe just down the road, did really well. Time came to sell. The reason that he wanted to sell it was because he actually wanted to do more of the fine dining stuff rather than cafe stuff. He realised that wasn't where his passion was. The interesting thing is that we didn't sell it for 1.5 times earnings. We actually sold it for 6 times.
Wow. And how did you get that?
Well, we got that because we sold it as a strategic sale to one of the employees of the business. They knew the skeletons in the closet. They knew the marketing, what worked, what didn't work, what the sales processes were, the pricing. They had all the suppliers lined up. We had contracts in place. They just bought it as one lump sum and they were over the moon. The purchaser was over the moon because they knew what was going on. And they took the business over. It was it didn't take long to actually dot the I's and cross the T's from all the compliance perspective. And, the business ran, full head of steam. And the vendor was happy because he could go back to his fine dining restaurant stuff, which he loved to do.
I was very happy you got a 6 times multiple.
He did. But why is that? There was no secret. The secret was that he actually had all this stuff written down. But this didn't take 2 or 3 months to write down. He had to run a business and he had to get all this stuff in place, the systems and the processes that was going to help these people or help the new person come along. The other little thing that helped as well is we created a bit of competitive tension. So we had another prospective purchaser come along as well. And it only takes 2 people to put the price up. The employee really wanted it. And, she got it.
And so then I presume in this instance you're talking about there was a secret source document as well, driven out of the systems and processes that the business owner had been building. How long are these documents, generally speaking, that you have your clients prepare? And how long does it take for them to put it together?
Well, for this particular case, it wasn't that long because the employee worked in the business and she was actually on the floor, so she knew how this stuff worked. But she didn't have in place the agreements with the staff, like she didn't have contracts or performance management documents around that, nor did she have in place the contracts with the suppliers, so we had to work hard on that. What she also didn't have in place was a sales process because there was a lot of events that happened and she didn't know how that worked, so we had to map all that out. And we had percentages of successes at different bottlenecks in the area. And we also had to show her the marketing that we'd done for the last 12 months, what worked, what didn't work and why. So it really depends on what's actually needed. If you get somebody from within the industry, they may know some of this stuff. If they don't, there's a completely separate set of books as well. So the answer to your question is it depends on what's actually required. But when you look at Pacify, so the last law, the I in Pacify is independence. So we know a business is worth more if the business owner is not there. If the business owner can delegate the tasks and then get out the gate and actually not be there. So if the business owner is independent of the organisation, then the business value is worth a lot more. So part of this particular process with the cafe was to make sure, okay, can this business run without him? At the end of the day was before he said, yep, it's ready to launch, he knew that he didn't have to be there at all. So that was the whole independence is really around systems and processes. So Pacify, if you go back to PACC's cash flow, so making sure that debtors, creditors and inventory levels are right. Have you got a dashboard around that? Because I want to know if there's a cash gap. Do I, as an investor, have to bring working capital to the business? And how much is that if that's what needs to happen?
And how do you find business owners are placed, generally when they come to you in that area, in the cash?
When they start with us, they don't really know. And there are debtors owing and their creditors might have blown out a little bit and they say, Stuart, we've made some money, but there's no money in the bank. And I walk into their business and you look at the shelves and you go, what are your stock turns like? That's where your profit is. And so we spend a bit of time getting that stuff sorted out. And sometimes they don't actually have systems around their inventory. Well, what's all this stock doing here? Oh, it's dead stock. It's been here for a couple of years. So what's this stock over here? Well, that stuff didn't sell, so we had to go and buy more stock and try and sell that. So we had to, get some strategies, some sales and marketing strategies around putting that inventory levels down to a reasonable level that someone would come in and go, yep, there's a clean set of books, there's some clean inventory, great stuff, there's no dead stock, we know the stock that's moving through works, there's a thing called the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your products. What are those products? 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. Who are those customers? Do your top customers buy your top selling products? Typically no. Okay, how do we drive that? So that's the sort of intelligence and the little tips and tricks that the investor wants to know about. Like we've got one customer in the flooring business. He knows that his customers live within in two postcodes. They're A-class customers. They're females aged 35 to 45 years of age. We know what school their kids go to, not because we don't actually know them, but we generally know where they are. So they don't do big broadcast marketing anymore. We've halved his marketing budget, but we're now being very clever about where we do the marketing, and the sales have increased 28%.
Yeah. And I mean, what you're talking about here makes a lot of sense, but I can feel the pain of some of the people who might be listening here in terms of thinking, wow, there's a lot to do. So, and I guess here, and this is what I was talking about earlier, about the difficulty sometimes in getting business owners across that line of slowing down the process. They're coming in with a transaction mindset, and here we are as advisors saying, well, hold on a moment, the business isn't ready. You could be getting a lot more out of this business. And us as lawyers looking at it and saying, okay, well, hold on, slow down. Your structure isn't great, from a, look at, not that we, focus specifically on the tax side, but your structure isn't great in terms of what you're going to get out of the sale at the end of the day. You haven't got your key contracts lined in. You've got, these issues brewing that we need to deal with. And, if you hit due diligence now, you're just going to, whatever you've negotiated, you're going to get a buyer who's going to push down the price. So, but it's still a very difficult conversation to get business owners who have their mindset in a transaction already, in a transaction state, to slow down and say, okay, we're going to take a big breath, take a step back, and we're going to review the business and put in all of this time and effort to build it up so that it's in the best sale ready state. So what's the tips that you have for how you work, your clients through that, that process, that mental process?
Well, I think it comes down to, are they educated enough about how to sell a business? And generally the answer is no, because they're being reactive. We go back to first principles. What's the purpose? Why are you selling? Are you selling because you're tired? Yes. Well, why are you tired? Oh, Stuart, look, I'm working 100 hours a week in my business. It's like, right, so who's going to buy a business where they've got to work 100 hours a week in their business? It's not really worth anything. But what do you need? Oh, I need X. Okay, so for somebody to actually go and pay that amount of money, what is it that we need to do to be able to have a business that effectively works under management? So let's just take you out, put somebody in place. We'll take some of the key other people out, put other people in place where the business can run without you. What's that mean? Oh, there's going to be a commercial wage. Okay, we're going to take some time to get those people up to speed. Okay, that's great. And just by having these conversations, by educating people about the process, because they're not used to it. They're used to selling their products and their services, but they've never sold a business before. They don't know the process. So when they come to us, we spend a lot of time just holding their hand saying, okay, where are you now? Where do you want to get to? And then try and build that bridge to get them there. Now, if they're hell-bent on selling their business today, great. Go and find someone to help you sell their business. Go for it. Like, we're not brokers. We don't do that. We believe there'd be a conflict if we were trying to set the business up for sale and be a broker. But we do utilise a number of brokers that actually help those people who just want a quick sale. Just if you want to go, just go. And it's usually because they're burnt out. Number one, they can't work another day in their life, or they're sick. There's something going on, and that becomes a reactive force sale. And we know that 84% of businesses don't sell. 84% of businesses that are listed for sale don't sell. They're not set up for sale. They're not worth anything. And in fact, only last week I sat with a client and we mapped out how much he was making per hour and how much his employees were making an hour. And he was paying his employees more than he was making himself.
Wow. Yeah, that's a figure that's got to hurt.
It does. But what he also realised was that, okay, what is it that we need to do to change that around? And we built a roadmap to get there. And he just knows that this is a marathon. Like, just because you want your business selling and you're only 10 metres into the race. Now, this is a 42K run. This is going to take a long time. And, every professional that I've spoken to in this business exit space all say the same thing. They don't know what their business is worth and they don't realise it takes a lot longer than what it should. And it's like, okay, that's what it is. Oh, but I've heard so-and-so sold their business within 3 months. Okay, great. And that happens, but it happens a very small percentage of the time. So be prepared to go into the long run. And, part of that, and that comes down to you've got to work on your business as well as work on selling your business. And there aren't too many business owners out there now sitting on their hands with nothing to do. They're actually actively working in their business. So then go and sell their business. It does take a bit of time. But if you want to do everything in 3 months, you're going to miss something. If you give yourself a good couple of years, then you're actually going to be better. And what we also know is that most good businesses get bought. They don't get sold. So if you're in that environment where you're actually building your business up for sale, someone's going to come along and have a look at it before you're actually ready for it. And there's been countless of our clients who have been building their business up, getting their secret sauce, getting their books sorted, where somebody's come in and said, I want to buy your business. And we've turned around and said, you know what? No, we're not ready for sale. And so what does that do to the price? The price goes up. And what happens, and we've been in some situations where the business owner turns around and says, no, I'm not ready for sale. When it is ready for sale, they turn around and go, actually, I've got a better business now than what I had in the first place. I don't want to sell. Right? So all of a sudden now they are controlling the business rather than the business controlling them.
Mm-hmm. And so can I drill into this statistic you talked about a little bit more, this 84% of businesses don't sell. Where does this come from? And what businesses are we talking about here?
Yeah, so there's different studies that have come out globally. In Australia, it's really hard to get the stats. In fact, I was only talking with a broker yesterday and saying to him, these are the figures that we looked at. He went, oh, that's an interesting figure. We've heard, 67%. We've heard 80%.
Yeah.
So there was a study done in the US. That's high. That figure's higher. The reality is most businesses that are listed for sale don't sell. Whether it's 70%, 80%, 67%, we know as a fact most businesses listed for sale don't sell. They're not ready for sale. They're not making a profit. Look, one of the things we find a lot is businesses will come to us and say, oh, look, I made, $200,000 last year. Okay, great. What did you pay yourself? Oh, no, that's what I paid myself. Okay, so your business actually is not worth anything because you didn't make any money. That's the thing. They're not paying themselves a commercial wage. Or they've got its mum and dad in the business and they've got a, $5 million business and they've pulled, $500,000 or $600,000 out of it. Okay, great. That's good. Well, what did you pay yourself? What did you pay the other shareholders? Oh, well, we didn't pay ourselves commercial wages. Or they go and sell the business and the business has got a lot of debt associated with it too. So who's going to pay for that? Or they've got employees, which, they've got long service leave and holiday pay and all that sort of stuff. So where does that happen? Where does that actually fit into the business? So a lot of it's about, we don't really understand what my financials are, what my figures are. And we hear all the time, how much you want to sell your business for? Oh, it's either 1 million or 5 million. Really? Where'd that come from? I don't know. It's just a good round figure. But it happens. And it's like, okay, go and substantiate it. Go and find out why that's worth that $5 million. And it goes back to that cafe we mentioned before. A reasonable running cafe can probably sell for 1.5, whatever it is, right? We got 6. Why? Because they just knew what was going on. They didn't have any debt associated with it. And if that business owner wanted to sell that particular business without any of the secret sauce, he would have got the 1.5 to 2, whatever it was, right? But because he spent that time developing up his secret sauce stuff, he managed to get more.
And how long did he spend developing the secret sauce stuff?
Well, for him, it was less than 12 months. It was about 9 months.
Okay. All right. Well, that's not too long a period for a business owner to hold on if they think they could increase, their multiple from a 1.5 to a 6. There's a lot of good reason to hold on for that period of time.
Yeah. And the reason why is because he already had a lot of that stuff anyway. He had both businesses effectively running without him, so he could spend 4 out of the 5 days working out why was this business ticking along so nicely, what was going on. And he was still testing and measuring his marketing. For him, an interesting story, I said, where do you spend most of your marketing dollars? He said, I don't know, where do you get most of your leads from? He said, probably about 50% of my leads from TV advertising, Stuart. And I said, great, where do you spend most of your money? 50% of my money I spend on marketing, I spend on TV. I said, well, how do you actually know? He said, well, because I spend 50% of my money on TV, that's where I think I'll get most of my customers. So the next question was, can we go and measure it for the next 3 to 4 weeks? So everybody who came in, rang up, made an inquiry, let's find out where they found us from. And we went back and we actually tested and measured this and came back to the table, and I said, so what impact does TV have on your business? I said, I don't want to tell you. I said, I know, but you're going to. I'm ready to be your friend. I'm here to help you. And he said, 3%. 3%.
Oh, no, really?
And I said, that's fantastic. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, mate, we have just saved you so much money, number one. Number two, we worked out where his leads were coming from, and that went into his secret sauce.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a really good example of working out where you can pull costs.
Absolutely. Well, it's about investing, and I think this is the thing. Marketing is math. You don't go and spend $1 unless you know if you can measure that where that dollar's been, where you're getting it from, right? And people say, I can only work out what 50% is because I only know what I spend. But actually, go back. They actually don't know how much they spend their money on from a marketing perspective. They don't know the sales process. And other people go, well, look, if I just did more marketing, I'll have a bigger business. We turn around and say, well, what are your conversion rate strategies? How do you onboard your new clients? Where do you get them from? How do you address them and treat them all the way through from an inquiry to a sale? If you got better at selling, and selling is just helping people buy, that's all it is. If you got better at selling, you wouldn't need to spend any more money on marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And in everything that you're talking about here, it's quite clear that someone who's coming in to buy a business, when they're looking at two similar types of businesses side by side, I guess, maybe even making the same returns, the business that has got a clear template of how they are doing it, versus the other business is obviously going to have a higher value, because it's far more a dependable asset, I guess, in terms of a business owner feeling that they can come in and, continue or improve, the way it's running.
And that's important too. So from the fourth P is promote. So what we need to understand is you've got to set the business up for sale in the right area. So when we go back to purpose and say, who do we want to sell the business to? Part of that is identifying, it might be a competitor or somebody else, like a supplier who wants to buy that business, and we set it up. So what is it that they want? Do they want our customers? Do they want our products? Do they want our systems? And therefore we set the business up to really drive that. We had a client of ours who was a wholesaler, and we had two major wholesalers who were basically our competitors. We analysed both of these major competitors. We worked out what they were great at and what they were weak at. And so we then went into a niche area about where they were weak at. We also looked at our client base, and we reselected our clients. So we really focused on our A-class clients. And our Bs and C-class clients, they actually went to our competitors. which overloaded them, and therefore our competitors were losing sales, losing their A-class customers because their A-class customers weren't getting the service that they wanted. And where did those A-class customers come to? They came to us.
Wow.
So one of our competitors, so our competitor wanted our customers and our products. And that process took about 20 months to work through. And we got a knock on the door, and they said, one of them came to us and said, we want to buy you. And we said, yep, that's fine. And we worked out a figure, and because it was a fairly significant organisation who were buying us, their due diligence took a long time, at which point, or over which period of time, our profits continued to increase. And they paid a higher amount of money based on a similar multiple because we had greater profits.
Well, that's almost unheard of, right? After DD, the buyer's paying more rather than less. I love it.
Yeah, because we already worked out what the deal was. The deal was based on a profitability ratio, and our profits went through the roof. So that's what happened. And it was interesting because the CEO came to us and said, we should have bought that. We should have given you that check 9 months ago. You cost us a lot of money. It's like, whatever, that's fine. That was a good outcome.
I love it. That's a really good story. That's a great story. It's very unusual from
that's what we do.
I see.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I guess that's why, we are a little bit different. We enjoy taking people through a journey and helping them achieve, their lifelong goals so they can go and do other things.
Yeah. It's a nice way to put it as well, right? And so we've done promote. So the last one, I guess, is perform. Is that right?
Well, it is perform, and perform's about, okay, so I know what I'm doing, I know what my business is worth, I'm a prime my business, I've pacified my buyers, I've promoted it the right way, I know who, like the strategic sale is something that we really focus on. The last one is perform, and we've sort of touched on it, and it's really about how you're going to manage to run your business and also run the sale at the same time. So that's one area. We've got to make sure you've got the resources and procedures to do that as well. We also know that as emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. So if you set a figure and you get all tied up in that particular figure, or it gets down to the nitty-gritty and, their accountant's not playing ball, or something's going on, or, you take offence, then, you're quite likely to go, look, that's enough, I'm going to walk away from the deal. And what we say is, no, stick to your guns, stick to your number, keep calm, and a little bit of humility goes a long way in these deals. And it's like we've seen deals fall over at the 11th hour time and time again. Why? Because either the vendor or the purchaser just gets out of sorts a little bit. And it's really important to have somebody on your side, in your corner, to go, no, it's fine. You've got to give a little, you'll get a little. You've got to give a little, you've got to get a little. It's okay. It's going to take a bit of time, but we'll get there. And hey, at the moment, we're still making some profit, so it's going okay. It's fine. Like, again, it's a marathon. I think
you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. I've seen this happen an amazingly high number of times when you're just at the point, that finish line. We can all see it's in sight, just the small, and to the people involved, it's not the smallest things, but we get to a point where there's, gridlock, we can't make it through. It really takes the advisors to understand the emotions that are at play, I think as well, to make sure you can talk both parties down into a more sensible view, a less emotional view of the transaction. And because these are big transactions, because particularly as you say that the sorts of business owners you're talking about in these scenarios we're going through are business owners who are either retiring or going on to something completely new. It's a massive change for them. So that can often be, that reality can almost sometimes hit right at the end finishing line as well. So we have all these things to grapple with.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And one of the things that we do is we then go full circle. Okay, so you're feeling a bit upset, someone's upset you, whatever it is. Go back to the first purpose. Why is it that you're selling? What do you want to do next? And it's not doing the trophy stuff. It's not, playing golf in every golf course around the world, or going on a cruise, or, doing a couple of laps of Australia or Europe or the US. It's okay, go and do all that stuff. Then what are you going to do? Oh, I really want to give back. It's like, okay, so how does that look? Or I really want to go and build a new business or buy a new business, or I want to go and spend more time with my grandkids or take them on, do something with them. Right? Today we don't usually retire. You don't really sit around on your hands doing nothing. What's the big picture? And when we go back to that first principle, that first purpose, and keep that as your goal, your target, this is just one of the things to tick the boxes on the way to get to that big target. And that's where we just keep going back to that. And that's why purpose is number one. Work out what your target is. Work out where you want to be, what you want to do, who you want to do it with. That's the thing you want to get. This is just a transaction. It'll happen. Just make it happen.
I absolutely have really enjoyed our discussion today, Stuart. I think it's a lot of our listening audience among business owners are also accountants and brokers and M&A advisors. I think a lot of the things that we've talked about here today are incredibly important for all advisors who are engaged in the process to be aware of, just like the business owners, the importance of not just being reactive, perhaps, to the issues that our clients are coming to us with. So our clients are coming and saying, I've had it with this business, I want out because I want to go and do whatever it is that's the next thing, or retire. And I think the whole theme of what we've been talking about today is slow down, step back, and make sure your business really is ready, because in putting that time and effort in before the sale, you'll reap, a massive return on your investment of time. If only you can slow down, step back, and take these practical applications of working out your purpose, looking at the value of the business, priming the business for sale, promoting it correctly, and performing, which I think that last one was running a business while readying it for sale. And that in itself sounds, like the issue that our business owners have to get their mind across. But you've really demonstrated well, Stuart, the benefit if they can just step back and do that.
Yeah, good. I mean, that's hopefully it's been helpful, because it does take a little bit of time. It usually takes a bit more time than what people think. But you speak to any advisor in this space, and they always say, just it's going to take longer than what you think. So just slow down to speed up, and you will get the return. You will get the rewards from all those years of hard work if you just do it the right way, and get good people around you.
Yeah, well, and we wholeheartedly agree with that one as well. And and I think the other element is, as you said, when you're looking at valuation, making sure you're dealing with people who have dealt in this type of transaction in your industry. And I think also when appointing advisors, once again, it's about appointing advisors who understand what they're doing in this space. So, all right. So we've got your business, we've got your book, Small Business, Big Exit, How to Make More Money Selling Your Business Than Running It. So, Stuart, how do our listeners get a copy of that, and how do they get in contact with you?
Look, they can get in contact with me through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn if they want to jump through that. Alternatively, if they do want a copy of the book, just send me an email and I'll make sure that they get one. So my email address is Stuart, Stuart, Stuart@bigexit.com.au, and just happy for any of your listeners, Joanna, to send them through the book.
Great. Okay. And we'll put some links to all of that in the show notes as well. So if you're at the gym, driving along, taking the dog for a walk, don't worry. Just when you finish, you could just click through to our show notes and you'll get all of those links through to Stuart and to get a copy of his book. Stuart, where do your clients normally come in from? I mean, is this the sort of thing you talk to accountants about because they're out there identifying businesses that really need this sort of help?
Yeah, sometimes accountants will refer to us. One of the financial planners will refer to us as well, because typically a business owner is talking to a financial planner about transition to retirement. Part of that is going to be, okay, what are you going to do with your business? We get brokers actually giving us a call as well, saying, listen, I've got a business. Look, we believe there's something there. It's not quite ready for sale. Can you help them? And it's like, yep, absolutely. Let's sit down and have a chat with them.
what a big step for a broker to make, because of course at that point they're staring down the barrel of a transaction that they can be involved in, but they make the call in the client's best interest and probably in their best interest in the future as well, in cultivating the right relationships with their clients, to tell their clients to slow down and build up the business first before they put it to market.
And we've got some great relationships with some fantastic brokers where they see the value in helping a business get ready for sale, because in their eyes, they just want a quick sale. And a quick sale is going to happen when the business is ready for sale. But if the business is not ready for sale, they're going to struggle. The owners are going to struggle. The broker's going to struggle. Yes, they want the listing. Sure, they can list it. But if there is not much to sell, then they're not going to get a result. So it takes them less time in the end, because there's somebody else out there helping the business owner, making sure it's a viable enterprise, and it's giving the vendor a lot more as an asset to sell, but it's also giving the buyer something better to buy as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Okay. Well, look, Stuart, thank you so much for your time today. I think it will be really valuable to our listeners. As I said, check out our show notes if you want link through to Stuart and grab yourself a copy of the book. And thanks for your time, Stuart. We've enjoyed having you on the Deal Room.
Thanks, Joanna. It's been great being here. Thanks very much. Had a lot of fun.
Well, that concludes our episode with Stuart Goodfellow, where we ran through his 5-step process to preparing a business for sale. These are steps from his book, Small Business, Big Exit, How to Make More Money Selling Your Business Than Running It. So as a quick recap, which is just as relevant for advisors out there to get a recap on it, as well as business owners themselves, those 5 steps are: number 1, the owners being clear about their purpose, their why power. So part of this is identifying why the owners are selling and how much they need out of the sale. Having clarity around goals helps a seller to have direction, but it also might create a situation where it becomes apparent that the best outcome for the seller might be to pause, work on the business, building it for sale for a while, and then come back to market. Now, obviously, that can cause issues sometimes if you're an advisor that's remunerated at sale, but in many instances, dealing with a seller who has a business that isn't ready for sale and who has lofty requirements from the sale that don't match the likely response from the market is doomed to waste you and them time. So I think it's really important to ensure that everyone is clear about the seller's purpose and about whether or not this can be met by a sale in the current market environment. So step 2 is getting serious about working out the present business value. And this really needs to be done by finding industry specialists to help work on a valuation that correctly reflects the industry and the market in that time. Also about understanding what the value of a business might be if the business owner was to pause, step back and take time to build the value of the business. So step 3 is all about that priming of the business for sale. This is filling in the gap between the first step, the purpose of the seller, and the second step, what the owner is actually sitting on in terms of the realistic market value at this point. So priming can take time, and it really requires work on rapidly increasing the value of a business by putting on the buyer's hat and working at it from a buyer's perspective, to then create a situation in which the sale is much easier and much more likely to yield the results that the sellers are after. Step 4 is promotion, which involves understanding the market in relation to competitors and the industry as a whole, knowing the business's strengths and making sure the business is set up to really communicate that in the marketing strategy. And finally, step 5 that we covered was perform, which is really about making sure someone has a keen eye on how the business will be managed to continue increasing, or at least maintaining, but ideally increasing profit and performance during the sale process. Right, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this discussion just as much as I did. If you are not already subscribed to The Deal Room, then please go ahead to iTunes or your favourite podcast player and subscribe to The Deal Room podcast in order to get notifications straight to your phone whenever a new episode is out. We'd also love to hear your feedback, so please leave us a review and rating. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening in. This has been Joanna Oakey and the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial practice, Aspect Legal. See you next time. Aspect Legal has a number of great services that help businesses prepare for a sale or acquisition, to help them prepare in advance and to get transaction ready. We've also got a range of services to help guide businesses through the sale and acquisitions process. We work with clients both big and small and have different types of services depending on size and complexity. We provide a free consultation to discuss your proposed sale or acquisition. So see our show notes on how to book a time to speak with us, or head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Room Podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.